Hello, everyone. Hello, my favorite fellow mobile developers. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you for the wonderful introduction, Janice. That was really quite amazing. So, today we have a very interesting and an exciting topic to share with you guys. It's all about game development in Flutter. And you'll learn to your surprise that Flutter basically transcends cross-platform application development, and you can actually harness it to create your own game in just a couple of hours, right? Now, for those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Sakina Abbas. Despite the amazing introduction that I was just given, I am the co-founder and CEO of my own software house, Reactory. We specialize in web applications and mobile applications development. I started off as a native Android developer and then eventually transitioned to Flutter development, which is what I'm currently doing at Reactory. I'm heading the DevOps and the Flutter development at my company. I'm also a core member of Flutter Karachi, Pakistan that I joined just recently. It is basically a cult of Flutter developers from my city, so it's awesome. Now, before we actually delve into game development per se, let me ask you a question. What is it that makes a great mobile game? Maybe it's the graphics of a game that really attracts you to play it. Maybe it's the gameplay, like you really enjoy what you have to do in order to proceed forward, in order to progress in the game. Maybe it's the story. Some games have a really nice storyline attached with, like Angry Birds. But when it comes to mobile games, performance and size of the game itself are very important and, in fact, key performance indicators of whether this game is going to be good or bad. Why is that? Because you may have the best storyline ever, you may have good graphics and all, but if your game is too huge, if it's too bulky in size, or if it's perhaps overheating your phone too badly and too quickly, then that's not a great mobile game, right? Your mobile games, they need to have performant games. Your mobile devices can only run performant games. You don't want the game to be taking up too much space on your phone so that you have to uninstall other applications, right? So a great mobile game is finally one that really keeps you hooked into playing it, so much so that when you're playing it, no matter how many times your mom calls you that food is ready, you're like, Mom, I can't right now, I'm playing this game. So the question arises, can a mobile application developer develop mobile games? And the answer is yes, you definitely can. And the best part is that Flutter actually makes the experience easier and faster. And this is coming from someone who loves to play games, okay? But I don't have that much knowledge of developing games. I have tried my hands a few times at Unity and even a native Android. But when I actually created my first game in Flutter, the experience was somewhat pretty much different. And this really inspired to give me this talk today. So this is the game that I created as a pet project some weeks ago. It's a bubble popping game. As you can see, a rule is displayed at the top, and there are some bubbles on the screen, and you have to pop those bubbles in accordance with that rule. So if the rule says that pop the reds, you only have to pop the red bubbles in succession in order to proceed to the next level. If you make any wrong move, it's game over, all right? Now, this is a very simple game, yes, but here's what I would like to tell you. Sometimes you just really have to focus more on gameplay. If the gameplay is good, then no matter how simple, how minimalistic your game actually looks, people are still going to play it. A valid example is Among Us, the imposter game that I'm sure everyone has heard of. So this game itself has multiple features, which I will be going through very briefly so as to give you an overview of how you can structure your own game in Flutter and basically what are the components of a game that you need to pay attention to when developing it, right? So every game has a rule, okay? Rules are important for gameplay. This game has multiple game rules. I'm actually using 6 different rules for this game. Then obviously every game needs a game logic, all right? So we have a game logic for leveling up or playing again, meaning you play the same level again. The best part is that this game has infinite levels. So you may play up to 1000th level, and if you succeed in finishing that level, you will still proceed on to the 1001st level. So it has infinite levels. There is coding for difficulty management to render rule according to the level. And this game is 100% offline. You don't need an active internet connection to play this game. Now, there are two parts of this game that I would be discussing with you. One is the layout, and the other is the game logic itself. So let's quickly overview the layout. We have our normal scaffold, and inside the scaffold, we have our normal app bar, nothing unusual. Our body is a simple column. Then inside the column, you can see we have different widgets as children. We have the level text. We have the text for the level. We have the text for the rule. We have a grid view dot builder for the bubbles. And then we have a button at the very bottom. This is used for when this is used for when a user gets a rule and there are no bubbles that align with that rule. So it's like, don't fool me, okay? So that's just a button. For the bubbles itself, I have created a custom stateful widget, which is a bubble widget, okay? As you can see, each bubble has its own color to it, and I have applied some sort of shadow to give it a shadowy, a shiny effect. Now, as you can see, each bubble, it takes certain set of parameters. This one's taking the color and rule color, for instance, all right? What these parameters are basically doing, I will be telling you very soon. Now, you noticed earlier that when in the demo, in the GIF that was playing, whenever the user proceeds forward to the next level, we get this nice overlay. Okay, in order to get this overlay, I have basically wrapped my entire column inside a stack so that my column, my bubbles, all my text and buttons, they're on the layer 0, okay? They're at the very bottom of the stack. And then there's this glossy widget, which is nothing but a container with some opacity set so as to give that translucent effect. And that's on top of it, okay? So that's what a stack does for all those beginners who are not familiar with these concepts, okay? And then this container simply has a column with 2 widgets inside. One is the text widget for the game over or next level. And then we have the play again or the proceed forward to the next level button. Now, the very interesting part is the game rules, okay? Often when I would play games, I would wonder, where do they store these rules? How are the rules formed? And I just figured out that, okay, the simplest way of doing is that you can actually store your rules, you can create your rules and store them inside a map. Right? Now, as you can see, I have a map with the key as string and the value as a custom class that I created by the name of rule. Now, as you can see, let's consider the first one. The key is C meaning color, and the value is rule, where color is true, okay? So what does my rule class do? It basically has like 3 parameters, okay? By default, all of them are false. And then I've when I'm creating each rule, I'm just tweaking its attributes. So C means that the color is true. The rule has something to do with color. N means the rule has something to do with numbers. So for instance, pop the bubbles that are just multiples of 3, right? And then so on and so forth. All the other rules have been generated by different combinations of the first 2. Right? So as you can see, the last one is the very complicated and advanced one. TNC means the timer is active and the rule is like, so you have 5 seconds. Within 5 seconds, pop all the black bubbles that are multiples of 3, right? So that's how I basically stored my rules. And where I'm using my rules, it's basically inside the game logic, inside the bubble widget itself, where I'm handling that when a user presses a button, what function is triggered? What's the behavior? Whenever a user presses a bubble in order to pop it, it detects what the rule is. It detects it using a switch statement. Okay, so for instance, the rule is C, and it says, okay, so the rule is C. What is the color of the bubble, and what is the rule color? The rule color that was generated at the top, okay? It matches these values in order to determine whether the user made the right move or the wrong move. Now, the second best part, the second interesting functionality of this game is the infinite levels. Now, as a novice, this question might occur to you. So we have infinite levels. How would we do the coding for the layout? Since you have 6 rules stored, do you design a separate screen for each rule? So like 6 screens for 6 rules? You can, but I would say I didn't do that. This game that you are actually seeing is just one screen. That's it, it's just one screen, okay? And how I did that, let me tell you. So first of all, I'm not storing the level in any database, no online database, no offline database. I'm actually storing it and retrieving from shared preferences. For those who don't know what shared preferences is, it's a cache management system for mobiles, all right? So basically, whenever the user progresses on to the next level, the level is incremented by 1 and it is stored in the cache, meaning shared preferences. Then when the screen is reloaded, the level is fetched from shared preferences. It detects what the level is. It checks which difficulty level does this level fall in, and then it generates a rule from the 6 rules that we saw earlier on the fly, on the go. So everything is dynamic. Nothing is static. The level isn't static. The rule isn't static. The bubbles aren't static. The colors of the bubbles aren't static. The numbers on the bubbles aren't static. The timer isn't static. Nothing is static. It's all being generated on the fly, on the go. So once it has detected, okay, let's suppose the level is 1. I should render a simpler rule, let's say number or color. That's the simplest one, okay? It renders that rule, and then the bubbles are populated according to that rule. And then the user just has to pop those bubbles in accordance with the rule. The game logic I've already defined you. Each bubble is enclosed inside a gesture detector in order to detect the press of a bubble or of a bubble, and based on the correct or incorrect move, the overlay message is rendered. Okay. Now the interesting part is that we're just using one screen for this entire game. It's just one screen to rule it all. So how do you actually reload the screen? Do you have to reset the rule? Do you have to reset the bubbles? Nothing. The simplest way is to just use navigator.push replacement names. So what it will do is that it will take out this current screen from the stack and it will put on another screen, and all of those shared preferences, the dynamic rule generation, the bubbles generation, everything will happen dynamically on the go. So you don't even have to code multiple screens for multiple rules. You can just handle that with one screen if you know where to code, what to code. Now, you might ask me, why Flutter? I mean, typically when we speak about game development, it's Unreal or Unity or perhaps even native Android, right? Well, my answer to you would be that Flutter offers simple and fast state management, so it's easier to code. It also provides you a blank canvas, which gives you high customization. You can just code out your layout as you want to, however you want to. It produces a very lightweight game that's highly performant. Why? Because Flutter uses its own engine, which is Skia, in order to render all the graphics on the screen. So it's already performant by default. So if you even add your own performant, if you even just optimize the performance yourself, it'll be even more performant. And by default, Flutter app sizes, they're not that great. They're not that huge. Okay, they're small, tiny. And then lastly, it's quick to create and it's extremely developer friendly. And this is, again, coming from someone who has already tried her hands at different frameworks in order to develop games. And I have successfully been able to develop a game with Flutter. I did it in about just like one day, in just a couple of hours. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So if you want to create your own games and you are a mobile application developer, do consider Flutter. If you're already a Flutter developer, You don't need to learn any new frameworks or new languages. You can just reuse what you already know in order to create your own game. So that's pretty much about it. If you have any questions, let me know. And these are my contact details that you can feel free to reach out to me too.
Okay.
Sorry?
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I think, this question, what are the benefits of using Flutter over native programming?
Wow, so many. I actually gave my very first session, my very first talk on Flutter on this particular question. So
wow.
basically, in native programming, the most complicated thing is that if you're creating the same application for multiple platforms like Android and iOS, then it's already time consuming to code that entire thing in native Android and then replicate it in native iOS. Okay. But other than that, even when let's just consider you're just developing one application for just one platform, not iOS. Okay, let's consider Android. There are so many things in Android that really make your code bulky. Okay, it's a fat code that for a very small task you will have to create 3 different files. Okay, so like we were just exploring the grid view.builder, the function that rendered my entire grid of bubbles, it was probably this much, okay, which is about like 10 to 15 lines of code with all the parameters passed. If you were to do the same thing in native Android, you would first have to create a recycler view, then you would first have to create an adapter, and then you would then have to link the UI with the programming language, which is Java or Kotlin, whatever you're using. So that's basically the one of the best benefits of using Flutter over native programming. So yeah,